That fan is so loud. All right. All right, so what I so what I want to look at this week is the PGRX and PGZX extensions, or libraries for building extensions for Postgres. So I've been taking a look at this recently, and I have been trying it out. And I ran into a couple of issues, and if I'm able to recreate these issues here, then we might be able to open up pull requests to some of the docs. In particular, some of the docs on testing I found a little bit confusing. And also, just PGZX, just a week or two ago, this other product came out, PGZX, for building Postgres extensions in Zig. And I wanted to try this out too, since I've done Zig before and have been looking at the PGRX library. It seemed worth taking a look at this. In particular, one of the weird things that you have to deal with in Postgres is that Postgres has its own memory allocation, and it kind of doesn't fit with Rust very well. For example, I wonder if they have it in here. Honestly, I don't even know all the details, but basically, sometimes you have to allocate stuff differently with extensions in Rust for Postgres. So I was hoping that some of that you might be able to avoid in Zig, because you just get the Zig, you get the Postgres allocator, and you can pass that around as a Zig allocator, because Zig already expects everything to pass in an allocator. All right, but anyway, first thing to do, we'll get Postgres locally. So I'm going to follow my own guide from this blog post I just wrote. And yeah, it's going to take a bit. I decided to switch my streaming setup to something extremely simpler. I was having so much trouble with OBS today that I'm basically just doing screen share now, which might look a little bit uglier, but it mostly seems to be performing better. All right, why this is taking forever. All right, we've got Postgres. So yeah, I guess to be safe, let's build from this is the latest commits for the 16 release. So master would be on the 17 release. It's not yet released, but for 16, this is the branch. So, okay, wait, no, that's doing stuff I don't want it to do. The important thing I want here is I just want to install this locally rather than globally. And that's what this will do. I don't need debug. So let's just simplify this into one line. I wish these configure scripts would do this by default, but they don't. So if you just specify these overrides, then when you go to install it, it will just install them into these directories. So the couple things that I want to test out with PGRX, as I said, the issue that I was having was with testing. So I do want to try writing some somewhat complicated tests and make sure that, well, just seeing what happens. And by somewhat complicated, I mean a particular issue that I ran into was if there are multiple test files, what's the right setup for it? There's a lot of special macros in this that does, like, it's helpful, but I think the project is still just, and I mean, these docs are really good for what seems to be still somewhat early stage project. When did this get started? And if this is early stage, the PGZX one is definitely much earlier stage. So maybe there'll be a chance that we can add some docs or something to this as we go to. All right, finished building and installing. So now I should have the Postgres binaries, and we go back here. Let's create a Postgres database. And they always want you to do this one, which will run it in the background, but I don't like running it in the background. I like running it in the foreground. So, but it gets a little bit, you know, a little bit more complicated. If we just grab this line, this is just manually doing the same thing that this would do, but it keeps Postgres, the server, running in the foreground. So it's just going, this is the server. It now took over my console. So now I need a new console. And now in that build, no, not in this directory. In that build bin directory, we've got this locally built version of pSQL. So this is us connected. And this is the, I mean, this doesn't matter, but this is the process of the Postgres backend that is serving these requests. All right, so we've got Postgres running locally now. So that's good. Oh, and now I can see when this started. So PGRX was started in 2020. So not super early stage, but it's still a fairly recent project. Okay, so let's just stop these for now. We've got Postgres installed in there. We've got a database in there. Let's create, well, let's install PGRX. And if the Postgres build was long, I guess the cargo build is going to be long too. So also, this framework will, especially because it supports multiple different Postgres versions, I guess, they do have a way for automatically installing Postgres, but I only want to configure one, and I figured out how to configure one, and it works when I install it first manually. So that's the reason that I installed Postgres separately. It just is going to make this step a little bit faster. All right. PGX is installed, so we should get to create a new project. PGX new stream live. All right. So we've got the control file that Postgres extensions need to have. Nothing in the SQL directory, I guess. Let's see what's in source. PG module magic. So this looks just like a Postgres extension in C. This is their function, I guess, that is callable from SQL, seems to be. But no example in here yet of actually calling a function. So actually, no, I'm not sure. I think that this does not mean that it's callable from SQL yet. I think it just means that it's supposed to exist, and like other extensions could call this, but not through SQL. They just call it directly. That's my guess. Let's see. Oh, okay, never mind. But all right, so one of the first things that I also wanted to do with these Postgres extensions is be able to call actual SQL from these tests. So I'm going to just get rid of some of this. So that there's less going on visually. And here to do make actual SQL call with hello live. So for example, I want to be able to do something like this and assert the result is this. That would be nice. So that's something that I'd like to figure out how to do. But before that, let's just build this, because we haven't actually made any meaningful changes right now. Let's just make sure that it builds and tests. Okay, PGRX home does not exist. I'm pretty sure that's because we didn't run PGRX init. So let's run PGRX init, and I want to see what this takes. All right. So we're going to give it the path of that directory where we installed Postgres already. Temp Postgres build, then pgconfig. All right. So it's initialized. Cargo build should work now. No. So they default to using Postgres 13. There's probably a way to override it, but my Rust knowledge barely exists, so we'll just override that. And now instead of trying to build against Postgres 13, which does not exist, or at least we didn't tell it it exists, it's going to build against Postgres 16, which is the version that we already manually installed. The last time that I was looking at this, I also got confused because they had a bunch of additional information. Was it in here? Yeah. In here on testing, and that was the particular issue that I was having before. The reason that testing is complicated is because, okay, this built. Let's look at that source code again. The reason testing is complicated here is because potentially you're doing stuff that involves data that would be managed by Postgres. So you need to have the entire Postgres environment running, which means you have to have Postgres server running, and their macros and this framework overall sets that up for you. So it runs a Postgres server and it installs the extension for you, and then it runs these tests in that environment, which is pretty cool. But also a little bit magical and tricky to actually figure out what you have to do. All right, so that built. Let's see if we can run cargo test. Well, this is not a Zig stream yet. It is Rust for now. But assuming that I can get somewhere interesting, then we will switch over to PGZX, which is the framework for building Postgres extensions in Zig. This machine has been being super slow. All right. So the other thing with this test, because it has to initialize Postgres and run Postgres and then run the test in that environment, it is kind of slow, 17 seconds. And this is not the fault of this framework. It's the fault of Postgres taking a long time to initialize, I guess. So another thing that I'm curious about over time is, why does it take Postgres so long to initialize? Could that be faster? All right, so those tests passed. So now that those tests pass, let's make changes. And let's figure out how to run a SQL query. So this, I think, is how we run a query. Let's see if this works. Okay, well, that built because it's not. All right. Let result equal get one. Result option. Okay. Why? Oh, okay. So I'm just trying to make the type system happy. Hello live should return a string. So based on this example, get one is going to return a result containing possibly an option. Stop it. And instead of an I64, it's going to be a string. Oh, wait, did that actually work? Interesting. Let's try making a syntax, or like calling a function that doesn't exist. So that function should not exist. So this test should fail. All right, it failed. Now, another thing that has been kind of bugging me with this framework is that the stack traces kind of don't exist. I'm sure that they're aware of this. I'm sure that the maintainers are aware of this. Panicked at line 172. That is not in this test file. And even if we do this Rust backtrace equals 1 cargo test, line 15. So that's correct. But the closest that it gives us in the stack trace is the function, which is not super useful. So I can definitely imagine why it is a challenge. I don't know specifically why we don't get a stack trace, but so when I have been playing around with this and I needed to figure out where an error even happened, I just added a bunch of print lines, basically. But back here, in this case, though, it does say in the logs, hello live does not exist. So that's useful enough here. And all I wanted to see is I wanted to make sure that my tests were actually working by causing them to fail. So cool. We figured out how to call a SQL function. Maybe it is obvious to people who program in Postgres normally that SPI is how you do it, because from what I remember at work, this is what our C code calls to. But as someone who's new to Postgres, as I still am, just saying SPI is not very clear. And is there any example of SQL in this select? So no, there's no example in here of it. What about SPI : no examples of that. So maybe it would be worthwhile to add something in here for docs. But let's grep around the repo first. So let's download PGRX. All right, so we've got PGRX. And I want to see if they have any docs of this, but I want to grep and only look at doc files. Really, nothing. Am I doing this wrong? Yeah. Maybe it's SPI that is supposed to be case insensitive. Okay. Oh, all right. We have a couple of examples. Where's the? Design decisions, PGRX examples, SPI README. Is that where we just were? Yeah. Okay. Yes. So again, what I'm looking for is, are there docs on this? Because I'm totally fine to add docs, and I would like to add docs if they didn't already exist. So that's, I'm just double checking here if any of this has been documented. So let's also look at that get one grep I SPI get one, and let's okay. Nothing. Let's go look at where get one is defined. We're not going to find it in the examples directory. There, that it looks like it. PGRX source SPI The reason I'm curious to go look at where it's defined is because I'm curious what other methods are there. So we knew about get1 because we saw it in this example. Right here. But what other... Looks like it's defined in tuple.rs, get1. Okay. Get1, get2, nice. Get3. Get a typed value by its ordinal position. The ordinal position is 1 based. There are parts of Postgres internals that are 0 based and parts of it that are 1 based. And I haven't learned what the convention is yet, but it's yeah, something to be aware of. I imagine that it's because at some times 0 is used to indicate invalid, but it's not always that you access something by a 1 index, or at least it doesn't seem to be. So if you are ever using Postgres internal APIs and you're getting nonsense results when you're trying to get something by index, you might want to try and see if that function is 1 indexed. All right, so get seems to be the general purpose version of this. Where is that get? So let's go look for what examples or anything that there is on get. But not get1. So they've got it in tests. No, that's get2, get2, get2. Okay, maybe they don't use this one directly. I wonder what happens if we use it directly. Instead of get1, if we do get, is this the equivalent? I don't know why this is telling me it doesn't exist. Because this says pub, right? This should exist. Self ordinal size. These are calling get. Oh, I see. It only takes one. It only takes one argument. Where does my query go then? Get1. Maybe this is not the right function actually, because this is saying this takes nothing. Yeah. So my bad. This is not the right place. Okay, I see. So this is a higher level method that takes the query string, and under the hood, it calls that get1 that we were looking at. And there are other methods like these, get1, 2, 3. There's versions of this that run but don't seem to return anything like this. Like they run the query, but then they don't return anything, I guess. So what happens if you have a query that returns more than 3? Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Is this no? That's not. Okay. So okay, here's how they call that get directly. I see. Also, what isn't clear is if get one expects that there's only one row in the result, or if it expects there's only one column. So in get one, first it connects with the client that it connects with. It calls update on the query. I'm not sure why it calls update. That might just be their name. Yeah. So they call it update, but it performs any query. It's an interesting choice. I mean, this is a mostly internal function. It's not actually internal because it's public. All right. And in any case, we execute the query, and then it looks like we can fetch some number of results, and then we call this get function that we looked at before. Yeah, these are good examples, though. PGX examples, SPI source lib. I guess they have the folks behind this have definitely gone. While not everything seems to be documented explicitly, they do have pretty good examples. And also, although I have repeatedly said that it's not super mature yet, the thing is that all of the code that they have is so much easier to look through and learn Postgres internals than anything else that I've let, because they wrote bindings for so many things, like how you get how you look up a table from a name. Not here. Where is it? Or how you look up the columns that are on a table, which is this. Yeah, and they have tons of examples of this. So here is, all right, let's go to PG relation. PG relation, this is the representation of a table in Postgres. And probably other things, but in my naive understanding, it's the representation of a table, and you could open it from an OID, which is a Postgres internal ID for everything, or you can look it up by name. So this stuff, when I had previously been on my own trying to figure out how to write extensions or anything with Postgres, I would use ChatGPT, and it might tell me something like this that would show me under the hood that that you need to look up the OID for a name of a table first, and then you can do a function like this, which is built into Postgres to get the actual table, but I was using ChatGPT for this, and you can't trust ChatGPT at all. So it's extremely useful to have all these bindings written by the PGRX folks, just to learn how you can do things that you would expect to be able to do in Postgres, because these are all internal functions that aren't, as far as I'm aware, documented. Yeah. All right. This, I've gotten distracted, quite distracted. So yeah, as I was starting the stream, one thing that I was curious about was, is there anything that I can do in the docs to help clarify anything? And as we looked at this example of how you'd make a query in the tests, and we found this example doing this already, running a query from tests. It isn't totally clear to me if there's a good place to add a doc for this. Which is fine. I think partly what I'm missing is that while this project has very good like Rust docs, for example, as we just were looking at, no, not that, in the PGRX code, they have these really good Rust level docs, and you can grep for them if you sort of know what you're looking for. But they don't exactly help you if you have like a task in mind, like you say, how do I iterate over all the rows in a table? These docs don't exactly guide you there. So again, not criticism, just the things that they're really good at right now are docs for individual functions and also really good examples. And it isn't yet exactly clear where I could contribute like guided stuff like how you run select queries. All right, maybe that's enough of this Postgres extension for now. Maybe we can switch over to Zig. Yeah, let's switch over to Zig. All right, do I even have Zig installed here? Zig, that's an old version. Let's grab. Oh, no, that's not an old version. Okay, that's the latest. Reference documentation. Oh, no, they use Nix. I don't use Nix. It's fine that they do use Nix, but I hope I can do anything without using Nix. Do they have examples? All right, so let's grab this repo then. And let's see what is in the Zig code. So here, this is standard Postgres extension initialization. This is marking this function as exported, this function as exported, and this is the string SQL name for it. And then here's the actual implementation. And I guess what they're doing is counting how many times a character exists in an input string. And in this test suite, what are they doing here? So they're also doing what the PGRX test suite did initially, which is calling these functions directly from, like, not calling them via SQL. So I wonder if they have information on how to make a SQL call, and if we can do the same thing that we did with the Rust extension. So this is another one of their examples, and some stuff that sticks out is this is the standard way that you have an initialization for your extension. This will just run once when it's loaded. This is an execution hook. All right, but I don't think I saw anything about them running a query into the SPI. No. Let's grep for SPI in the repo. Okay. In the README, SPI is not checked. Oh, stop it. Oh, wait, no. Okay. They do support some things, I guess. Or I'm not exactly sure. Another thing that we can try is just grep for select. And does anything show up? What is this? Hide docs. Oh, that maybe? No. I think run tests is the way that they, like, this is a method their framework uses to start tests that we wrote. These are all, I mean, the situation is similar in PGRX, which is that the way that they run tests is a little bit complicated because they're trying to make it easy for us. Oh, let's look at the source code of that. Run tests. This function registers a set of test suite to be run inside the Postgres server. A run tests function is registered as a Postgres function that will run all the tests registered. Ah, I see. So in their example, here, register tests. Build options test fn. So this is the function that we're calling here, register tests. Interesting use of comp time. So this is registering, as the doc said, and we just read, this is registering this function available to be called from SQL in Postgres. And when we call this one, it's going to run each of the test suites. So it's going to run test suite 1, test suite 2 for this one. Okay. But still no way right now, it seems, to run SQL query ourselves from the test. I mean, this project is early, or much earlier. It was just announced a couple weeks ago. Let's mess with the examples, see if we can get it to build. I have never used Zig's package manager before either. I don't even know if I need to do anything. We already saw that 0.11 was the latest one. Maybe if this is in GitHub Actions, it'll show me if I'm forgetting something else. For navigating code bases, if you get used to git grep, it helps a lot. I mean, it's a relatively caveman way to navigate, because if you use a editor, you can probably do jump to definition or something like that. And you can do that in Emacs, but I always forget how you do it. I always forget. So I normally just use git grep. On my work computer, I have a script that sets it up so that go to definition does work, but I don't have that on this computer, so I won't try to get it working right now. All right. Oh, no. All right, so I was hoping to see how you build it from their GitHub workflow, but they use Nix, and again, I am not going to use Nix. All right, but they call CI run, so maybe there's something in there. They have interesting batch practices. This is very clean. What is this extension build? This is a function of theirs. Extension build, Zig build. Why is this having this trouble? Zig build zig.zon dependency URL. Well, let's see if the project overall builds. Root struct has no member. What version of Zig do they want? Okay, their docs don't seem to say what version they want. Maybe we have to look at the Nix scripts. I have never looked at Nix stuff before, so I have no idea. That does not look like anything useful. Okay, then we're getting somewhere now. Templates, init, readme, so that's where we are here. It says something about needing to edit build.zig.zone file. Okay, cool. This does look like the error that we just saw. But we couldn't even build the project. What was that issue? Root struct of file build has no member result. So I think that's a Zig version issue. But what? All right, yeah. What version of Zig do they want? Pin version. Flick.next. All right, that does not look like the issue that I am having. Currently pin. I don't think that this is the Zig package, but possibly it is. What? I know why they would use Nix, because for people who have Nix, this would be very simple, and the Nix promise seems good, but for people who are not running Nix, I have no idea how to read this. That is not useful. So I can't figure out what version of Zig that they want, but I think that it's not this latest one. We can just download an older version of Zig and see if we can get it to build. Or it's possible also that they require a newer version of Zig. All right, so we've got a version of Zig. Let's see if this builds with that one any better. Okay, it looks like it passed. So they're building on Zig, an unreleased version of Zig, which is fine. But maybe it would be good to add that to the docs. Yeah, maybe we'll make a little PR to add. Oh, okay, here they say it. All right, we don't need to make a PR. They do say that they're on 0.12.0, which is not the latest released version. This is an unreleased version. All right, that's fine. So we built the project itself, and back in their somewhere in here they said we need to update a hash manually. So this is one of their examples, and I wanted to build this, but not only do we need to be using a latest version of Zig, but okay, maybe the main issue was that we weren't using that latest version of Zig because this is getting further than it was before. Var at no, not found. So, okay. I installed Postgres locally, but it probably doesn't. It doesn't know about that because I didn't put the Postgres binaries in any global place. So somewhere in this project, it needs to call pgconfig because pgconfig tells any extension that where the header files are to build against. Dev bin pg local. So I'm just looking for where they call pgconfig from, and maybe I can override it. Okay, so the other thing that they let you do, I guess, is an environment variable. So that is how we can override it. So in the very beginning of the stream, we installed Postgres locally, build bin pgconfig. And we also have that local version of Zig. So is this going to work now? Oh, it did work. Wow. Cool. So this example extension built. We still need to run the steps to actually install it so that Postgres could load it. It's possible that build.zig tells us what to do. Doc step. Or grep install. Okay. So building the extension is one thing, but then you have to install the extension so that Postgres could load it. And I'm not clear how you do that. Maybe it's in here. So this is what I would expect to be able to do, but only after it was installed. I mean, maybe it has been installed. So back out there, let's go to our Postgres install and run it. Oh, okay, this is back in my post recently that showed me how to run it. So we started up Postgres there. And let's connect to Postgres. And how do I list extensions in Postgres? List extensions. Okay, so it doesn't seem like that one was installed here, PG extension. Yeah, so I don't think that doing Zig build here caused the extension to actually be installed for Postgres. So that is what I'm still confused about. Oh, well, okay. It says that Zig build will install. Maybe I didn't use this PG home directory environment variable. I definitely did not use this. I'm not sure what PG home is. That might just be a standard Postgres thing. PG home. Location of Postgres binary installed. It is annoying that they would require this because this you should presumably be able to get from pgconfig. PG home. Or maybe rather than this, maybe it is the testdb. Oh, there it is in lib. Okay, maybe that did finally install it correctly. So let's restart Postgres and reconnect. And what was this command to list extensions? No, still not there. The other thing that we can try is in testdb, the Postgres config will let us load the libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that called again? Testdb lib char count zig. So if we started Postgres saying that we wanted that extension to be available, hopefully it would either load it actually or fail. Okay, libdir plugins, char count.zig. TestDB. I'm just trying to move it around to see if I can get it in the right place. Nope. Does it need to be in? Okay. So there is this libdir that pgconfig tells us about. Is there a plugins directory in there? No. This is just basic Postgres extension stuff. This is not crazy stuff, but I'm forgetting about it right now. And this is not, I'm not remembering where to put this. Oh, okay. There is where it expects some stuff. Build, share, extension. I have too many windows. All right, so that's my Postgres server. And let's get rid of that. Let's go back to PGZX. The examples directory. Char count. Let's get rid of anything that we did build so that it's going to build fresh. And let's try other directories. So this said that it expected the extension to be installed here. Temp Postgres build share extension. Build share extension. And it was not put there. So let's try a different path. The other place we could figure out where to put this is based on how they use PG Home in this repo. Okay, there. That's the right place. They finally put it into the right place. Let's see if we can create the extension. It worked. Cool. We actually got their extension working. So the steps that we needed were to be running latest Zig version. We need to know the right place for what PG Home is. Again, maybe it's a common Postgres thing, but since I'm still new to Postgres, I didn't know what this was. I wonder if pgconfig actually talks about home. None of these say home. Now I want to see what this project uses this for. Maybe they did describe how they. No. Oh, that's not the main README. PG Home, PG Home, PG Home. Let's ask Bing AI. What is PG home with respect to Postgres extensions? It says it's not a standard term. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, just because it says it's not does not mean it is actually not. It lies a lot. But I have no idea what PG home means. Let's see if PGZX, PGRX, the Rust one, mentions Postgres home at all. No. Okay, then let's open a pull request. Actually, the alternative is that we can get PG home automatically from PG config. So let's see, get PG home, how that's called. Interesting. It seems like they have one path for if PG home is set. If PG home is set, they return that path. If PG home is not set, they set the home to the bin directory, which is not the one that we set to get it to work, I think. So I'm going to clean up the Postgres install and rerun make install. And rerun initdb. Oh, okay, no, we didn't need to rerun initdb. So we cleaned up the Postgres build, and now this Zig extension is no longer there. So if we go back to that example, char count, and clean this up too, and then run the build again, but without passing it this directory, where is it going to install this? It didn't install it there, where it was supposed to. And now I'm just forgetting what the name of these files was that it installed. Oh, here's where I put them. TestDB share extension, possibly. No, I put that there. Let's get rid of that TestDB and re-init it just so that everything is completely clean. And let's clean the Zig extension up again, rebuild this, reinstall it. Although working on the build can feel a little bit boring, it's also the harder part, because once you get this going, then you can just go and write Zig code again, or write Rust code. But you have to figure out how to get the build working, how to get it to install, and how to get the tests running. Those are just the important parts before you get to the easy parts. All right, so we just installed that, and we expected it to put the extension into this directory, but it's still not doing that. It doesn't seem like it put it anywhere. So let's add a panic in here. And print out binder. So I want this to panic and show me what this binder is that it's putting us into. And it didn't even panic. Also interesting that this is already here. What is has? Oh, I see. They're doing this so that it's not recalculating it every time. Why are you not panicking here? Let's panic somewhere else. Okay, well, we did finally panic, but not at the time that I want to. I haven't programmed in Zig in months, and I already can't remember everything. Right. Again, all I'm trying to do is figure out what the default directory is that it's going to install this extension into if I don't specify this PG home. This std debug panic. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. This still isn't that okay. User, really. So it's globally installing this. Interesting. If I override pgconfig, is it going to respect that? Okay, it does. So that is interesting. Why is it not installing things in the right place then? Let's get rid of this panic. And back to this example. If we try to build and install it, is it going to put the extension in the right place, or where is it going to put it? It still didn't put it in the right place. It's also not installing it globally. Yeah, I have no idea, because it printed out the right path here, and this is what, when we pass this and set this to temp Postgres build, it put it in the right place. If it didn't put it in here, I mean, we can just search everywhere. Jar count Zig control. And this is going to take forever. Can we just hide all the error? So this should exist in at least one place, because we did just install it to the right place. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So the only place it installed it was in the local directory, I guess. If we clean it, is it still? No, that it didn't even install it there. This is just this is the place from which it is installed. So I'm confused that it's not putting this anywhere when I don't override the path. Maybe it's at this. No, this is not even allowed to fail. This is expected to succeed. Get PG home. I don't know. I'm going to keep looking into that, but I'm not going to try to keep finding it here. So when we pass it, the path of where the Postgres install is, it puts it in the right place. And when we don't, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. Yeah, so I guess I'll figure that out and maybe make a pull request. But yeah, this has been great to look at the PGRX again briefly and look at PGZX for the first time. The one thing that I'll be looking forward to seeing in PGZX is support for running queries inside of the extension, especially from the tests. Because right now I think you have to do it manually. And then with PGRX, the thing that I'd like to figure out is if there is a good place inside of the repo itself to contribute guides or something like that in addition to their examples. Or maybe I just have continued to miss the docs, but I grepped for it, and I don't think I saw guides that talk about stuff like how to run queries inside the extension. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining.